a man named Sorrento tries to convince a boy named Wade to help him find an Easter egg that will put him in charge of the world's leading virtual game. He rejects the offer because Sorrento's intentions aren't pure, but this gets the man angry, so he sends his men to bomb Wade in his aunt's house. However, Wade is not at home, but as he arrives, he sees the house go up in flames with his aunt inside. A few weeks earlier, in a world where everyone is fully immersed in a virtual world called the Oasis, Wade goes around to find his virtual friend, Ich, so that they can get ready for the first round of a highly competitive contest. As it turns out, the Oasis was created by two men named Halliday and Morrow. However, Morrow eventually signed off his shares and left Halliday as the sole owner of the Oasis. After Halliday's death, all the players in the Oasis got a recorded message from him, informing them that he has created a contest for them to find an Easter egg that will make them eligible to claim his fortune and be in charge of the Oasis. To start the games, Halliday creates 3 special contests that lead to 3 keys that will unlock the safe where the egg will be hidden. Despite all the clues Halliday left, no one has found any key yet. Among those participating in the contest are a group of people called Sixers, who are hired by Sorrento as part of his company called IOI. Even though most people don't know, Sorrento plans to take over the Oasis and use it for his evil intentions. Back to the present day, while everyone is ready to participate again in the first phase of the contests, Wade tells Ak that he'll have to start from the back to gain coins from crashed cars because he's low on fuel. As he then heads back, a lady named Artemis parks her bike next to him. Wade recognizes Artemis as one of the best players in the Oasis, who is in a battle against the IOI because she's aware of Sorrento's true intentions. As the race starts, a set of obstacles eliminates some of the participants, including Ak and Wade's other friends, Daito and Sho. However, he and Artemis keep going strong. Before reaching the finish line, a big Kong appears in front of them and destroys the road. Wade stops because getting past Kong is impossible, but Artemis keeps going. Since he knows that she's at risk of falling into Kong's hand, he saves her, but she loses her bike to the big ape. She looks unhappy about losing her bike, but Wade tells her that Ash can help her fix it. Together, they then head to Ak's workshop. While Ak is fixing her bike, Artemis asks Wade what he plans to do with Halliday's fortune if he wins. Wade says he just wants to enjoy a rich life, and Artemis says she now understands why he didn't try to get past Kong. Wade says it's because it was impossible, and that it's even like a rule. However, Artemis says it's unlikely for it to be a rule because Halliday was known to hate rules. She also says that Wade should be trying everything he can to ensure Sorrento doesn't win because he'll destroy the Oasis. After a while, Ak finishes up with her bike and she leaves the Oasis. Wade also leaves and returns to the small house he lives with his Aunt Alice. After getting into a fight with his aunt's boyfriend, Wade goes to his room and starts thinking of what Artemis said about Halliday hating rules. He then returns to the Oasis and goes to check Halliday's journals, which are recorded videos of different important events in his life. After he gets the curator at the library to take him to a particular entry where Halliday and Morrow argued about rules, Wade watches it repeatedly without finding any clue. However, as he's about to leave, he hears Halliday telling Morrow that instead of going forward and following the perfect way things are supposed to go, they can choose to go backwards. Wade gets a clue from this, and on the next day when he goes to the racing contest, he stops his car while others go forward. Artemis looks shocked by this, but she then sees him driving backward. With this, Wade follows a route to escape all the obstacles until he reaches the finish line. As he appears to be the first person to finish the race, Halliday's avatar, Anorak, shows up and gives Wade the first key and a clue to the next contest. Just then, his gamer tag, Parzival, appears on the scoreboard, and everyone sees that someone has finally finished the first contest. While meeting with some of his staff, Sorrento gets angry to see that someone else is already leading the race to take control of the Oasis. After he urges everyone to do what they can to find the other keys, he goes into the Oasis to see a guy named iRock. As they meet, iRock presents Sorrento with an artifact called the Orb of Osuvox, which he has been looking for. He says the orb can create a magical shield that can only be brought down with a magic spell, but Sorrento tells him to keep it until he eventually needs it. Sorrento then gives E-Rock another task to find Wade and take him off the scoreboard. After winning the first contest, Wade gives a tip to his friends so they can also have their names on the scoreboard. He also goes to buy some supplies in a weapons store in the Oasis. While he's at the store with Ayek, he sees a weapon called the Cataclysm, which can destroy all the avatars in the Oasis. Ayek asks why anyone would want that, and Wade says it's likely something Sorrento and his people will want. After this, he buys what he needs and heads back to the real world. As he looks at the clue for the second contest, which mentions a creator who hated his creation and failed to make a leap, Wade wonders what it could mean. He then goes to the library to check Halliday's journals again. Before he can go too far, he gets crowded by fans who want to take pictures with him. Artemis eventually shows up and takes him away so they can check the journals together. Shortly after, Wade takes Artemis to the part of the journals where she sees that Sorrento used to work for Halliday only to get him tea. They then fast forward the tape to where Halliday told Morrow about going on a date to the movies with a lady named Kira. This leaves Wade and Artemis surprised because Kira eventually got married to Morrow. As they wonder if she was Halliday's biggest regret, Wade says it has to mean something because it was the only time Halliday mentioned Kira in the journals. The curator says it's not true, but Wade says he's willing to bet all his coins. After the curator checks all the entries, he sees that Wade is correct, so he gives him a coin for winning the bet. Wade returns it, but the curator insists that he takes it. After a while, Artemis tells Wade to meet her at a dance club later that night. While Wade is then preparing for his date, Eek tries to discourage him that Artemis might be a bad person, but he says he likes her. He eventually heads to the club, where a fan takes a picture with him. However, it turns out that the fan works for iRock and has put an invisible mic on Wade so that her boss can hear everything he says that night. After a while, Wade meets Artemis, and she tells him that after doing some research, she found out that the dance club was created by Halliday after his date with Kira, as she also suggests that he likely created it so they could come on a second date. Wade realizes that since they never made it past the first date, Halliday must have hated the dance club. Artemis then says the leap he didn't take might have been the leap to the floating dance floor. She then suggests jumping in to dance together. As they do this, nothing changes. So Artemis says they might get to unlock the next key with a dancing contest. While dancing, Wade tells Artemis that he likes her and would love to meet her in the real world. She says he would be disappointed, but Wade says he won't. He then tells her his real name, and Artemis looks shocked, but iRock also hears it. Artemis says he shouldn't have mentioned his name, but Wade says he's not scared of her. After a while, iRock alerts Sorrento's men to enter the club to attack them. Before they get killed, Wade realizes that he has an item that can be used to turn back time by 60 seconds. With this, he's able to escape with Artemis, but she seems angry that he'd rather be with her than focus on winning the contest. She says he's not like her because she's trying to get revenge for her dad, who got killed in one of IOI's loyalty centers. She also says she doesn't want Sorrento to get control of the Oasis because there will be dangerous consequences. After she leaves, Wade looks disappointed and returns to the real world. Meanwhile, iRock informs Sorrento of Wade's identity, so he says he'll do something about it. He then speaks to one of his agents, Fnail, who he tells that he has a big task for her. Shortly after, Sorrento calls Wade to enter the virtual world. As he enters, Wade finds himself inside Sorrento's office. Sorrento then tells him that he had his people reconfigure his call so that Wade's character can appear as a hologram in his office. Wade looks impressed, and as he looks around, he sees Sorrento's gaming rig with his Oasis password by the side. Sorrento then offers to pay Wade to find the Easter egg in the Oasis. Wade looks shocked by the amount Sorrento is offering, but he rejects it and says that Halliday would never want IOI to be in charge of the Oasis. With this, Sorrento gets angry and says he knows where Wade lives. He also mentions that he has sent his people to bomb the place. Wade looks scared because he's not even there, but as he runs to Alice's house and tries to get her to leave, he ends up being too late as she gets bombed with her boyfriend. Wade then looks devastated, but as he's walking away, he gets kidnapped by a man with a head tattoo who also knocks him out. When Wade wakes up, he sees Artemis in person, and she says she had him taken by one of her team members who is working with her to bring down Sorrento. Wade looks pleased to see her, and she then takes him to the roof. As they start talking, Wade says he's not disappointed to see her because of the scar on her face. He also says nice things to her that makes her happy. Just then, she figures out what the first clue means, so she takes Wade, Iek, Daito, and Sho to the Halliday journals, where she says that the leap Halliday couldn't take was kissing Kira. Following this, they head to where the date happened, which is at a theater where a horror film is showing. As they enter the theater, they see a ticking clock showing that they have just 5 minutes to find what they're looking for. Just as the others walk away, Ach gets sucked into the horror film, and as he tries to run away from a zombie, he sees a picture of Halliday and Kira together. After his friends eventually save him, they mention that they need to find Kira. H then tells them that he found a picture of her with Halliday. He takes them to see it, and Artemis realizes that Halliday really had the chance to kiss Kira. As they then find the ballroom, they see Kira and discover that they have to take the leap into the floating dance floor to get to her. Artemis immediately jumps on a zombie, but before the others can join her, their 5 minutes elapse, and they're teleported out of the theater. After a while, Artemis gets to Kira, and this makes Anorak show up to give her the second key. While Sorrento is getting updates that Artemis has completed the second challenge, he sees that Wade also made it. With this, he realizes that Wade is still alive, so he calls Finale to do something about it. Shortly after, Finale sees footage of the tattoo-headed man following Wade the other day, so she tracks him down and finds out where he is. While Wade and Artemis are trying to figure out the next clue, which is about finding a fortress, Finale and her troops attack Artemis's team headquarters. Following this, Artemis takes Wade to escape, but she doesn't follow him. He asks why she wants to stay back, and she says it will help slow down Finale while he can go on to finish the last contest. Wade doesn't like this, but he leaves, after which Artemis is taken to a loyalty center and forced to work for IOI. Meanwhile, as Wade is escaping, someone stops him, and he realizes that it's Iek. She then tells him that Artemis called her to help him before he gets caught. Following this, she shows him her van, and as he enters, he sees Sho and Daito. Wade then suggests saving Artemis at IOI, but Ak says it's too risky. As she also says that the Sixers have found the right fortress from the last clue, she adds that they'll need to hack into Sorrento's feed to get him to help with freeing Artemis. Wade then mentions that he has seen Sorrento's setup before, and as Aish asks what he remembers, he tells her Sorrento's password. Elsewhere, Sorrento enters the oasis and tells Irok to use the Orb of Osuvox to prevent anyone from entering the area where the fortress is located. As he then returns to the real world, Ak successfully hacks into his feed, and he sees Wade and Daito in front of him. He looks shocked and wonders how they entered his office, but they threaten to kill him if he doesn't tell them where Artemis is. After he tells them, Aish and the others give Artemis instructions to free herself. As this happens, though, Sorrento realizes that they actually hacked into his feed to make him think they're in his office. He immediately frees himself and heads out, just as Artemis tells Wade and the others to meet her in a place called Planet Doom, because that's where the last clue leads. She also adds that she needs access to Sorrento's rig to take down the magical shield from inside it. After Wade tells her Sorrento's password, Artemis says he needs to raise an army and get them to Planet Doom. A while later, Wade calls on everyone in the Oasis to meet him on Planet Doom to join him and fight to save the virtual world from IOI. As everyone then runs to Planet Doom, Sorrento looks disappointed. Meanwhile, Artemis finds Sorrento's rig and gains access to his Oasis profile, which she uses to figure out all she needs to know about turning off the orb. After she gets all she needs, she leaves before Sorrento can find her. She then finds where the orb is and manages to turn it off by saying some magical words. With this, Wade leads his army to attack Sorrento's soldiers on Planet Doom. As he's then fighting, Artemis locates him and enters his car. She also tells him that the Sixers have found the last challenge, which involves playing a game. As Finale then tries to find Iek's truck so she can keep Wade and the others out of the Oasis, Sorrento also wears a mega suit and attacks them on Planet Doom. After a while, he eventually gets overpowered, with Artemis throwing a bomb into his suit. When he returns to the real world, he immediately starts looking for Artemis in the office because he knows she's accessing the Oasis through an IOI setup. Just before Sorrento gets to her, Wade says he'll have to kill her avatar so she can escape and find Eek's van. Artemis doesn't want this, but Wade says it's for the best. After he shoots her, she then manages to escape just before Sorrento finds her. Meanwhile, Artemis gets to where the last challenge is being played, and he sees that the Sixers have been playing to win. Just as the guy currently playing wins, he still fails to complete the contest. and Wade says the game is not about winning. As he gets ready to start playing, he says the game was created to find an invisible dot while wandering around without the intention of finishing the game. Before he starts playing, Sorrento and iRock show up to stop him. Sorrento then brings out a catalyst and says he'll rather see everyone in the Oasis die than lose Halliday's fortune. As he's about to turn on the catalyst, Wade kicks it off his hand and they start fighting. However, Sorrento still manages to get the catalyst, which he uses to destroy all the avatars in the Oasis. In the real world, Sorrento looks happy about what he did, but it turns out that Wade is still inside the game because there's an extra life coin in his pocket. Just as he starts playing the game to finish the contest, Finale finds X-Van and tells Sorrento where it is. Instead of waiting for Finale to find the gamers, Sorrento gets inside his truck and collects a gun from one of his guards. Elsewhere, Ak also stops to pick Artemis up, and she looks happy to see her friends in the real world. As she also sees that Wade's avatar didn't die, she realizes that he'll be able to complete the challenge. After a while, Wade finds the invisible dot, which then takes him to the end of the game. Following this, the game disappears, and Anorak shows up to give Wade the final key. As he's about to take it, Sorrento bumps into Ak's van and Wade falls. He eventually manages to take the key, after which he uses all the 3 keys he collected to unlock a door leading to the room where Anorak tells Wade to sign the document to become the owner of the Oasis. As Wade prepares to sign it, he notices that something is off. He then figures out that Halliday is trying to replicate the day he got Morrow to sign off his shares. As he mentions that it was Halliday's biggest mistake, Anorak then leads him to meet Halliday in the room where he grew up. Wade looks shocked by this, but Halliday says he added that last part to be sure he was transferring control of the Oasis to the right person. He then shows Wade a red button, which he can use to shut down the Oasis anytime he wants. Following this, Halliday presents him with a golden Easter egg as the prize for completing the challenge. Just then, Iech stops her van near Wade's neighborhood. The people there try to stop Sorrento from getting to the van, but as he brings out his gun, everyone leaves the way. After opening the van, he sees that Wade is holding the Easter egg, and while he admires this, some cops arrive to arrest him. Following this, Halliday thanks Wade for playing his game. Wade then asks if Halliday is truly dead, and he says he is. As Wade also asks how Halliday managed to appear at the end of the game, the Oasis creator only says goodbye and leaves. Just then, Wade returns to the real world and hugs Artemis. They're eventually interrupted by Morrow, who has brought Halliday's lawyers to transfer his fortune and control of the Oasis to Wade. As Wade receives the contract, he tells Morrow he'd like to share it with his friends. After a while, Wade asks how Morrow found them quickly, and he says he has been watching them. He also gives Wade a coin and says he has been watching even closer than they think. With this, Wade realizes that Morrow was the curator at the library who gave him a coin, which turned out to be the extra life coin. Morrow says he only thought about helping because Wade figured out by himself that Kira was the key. Wade then says that after completing the game, he has realized that Morrow was the key, and that Halliday's biggest regret was losing his friend. Morrow gets emotional, and as Artemis and the others arrive, he greets them and refers to them as the High Five. In the following days, the High Five take control of the Oasis. They also agree to shut down the virtual world a few times every week so that people would still enjoy life in the real world. As they enjoy their success, Wade and Artemis also start dating.